For many cannabis users, the path towards legalizing recreational cannabis in Canada has been excruciatingly slow. But for producers, it probably feels like light speed. They've been locked in a collective scramble to scale production capacity, and many are wishing they had more time. That strategy of scaling up makes sense right now, but it's also one that could have some painful side effects in the industry down the line. Analysts at Canaccord Genuity predict the price of cannabis will steadily decline over the next several years after legalization. They see prices holding up around $8 per gram until 2020, but warn that production capacity will catch up to demand before long. That will cause prices to slip below $7 per gram by 2026, and that could put pressure on some producers' bottom lines. SpeakEasy Cannabis Club has a plan to insulate itself from those pricing pressures. The company is focusing on the premium marijuana market, where analysts believe prices will hold up better than lower-grade product. SpeakEasy has a special asset that may give it some extra credibility with consumers. The company owns 290 acres of farmland in British Columbia's Golden Mile. It's an area renowned for its temperate climate and high-quality soil. That makes it an ideal place to grow cannabis, and SpeakEasy is betting consumers will pay top dollar. SpeakEasy's CEO Marc Geen has a long history in the Golden Mile. His father ran the farm collective that has been operating on the land until now, and successfully ran the Sunripe brand before selling it. Geen joined us in Vancouver to explain his plan to get the most out of this unique asset. Marc, you're in the Golden Mile, very well known in the Okanagan Valley, and you want to produce premium cannabis. So tell us about the optimal conditions that exist there.
So the Golden Mile is actually known more for just farming than production of cannabis. It's not only BC's but Canada's most fertile area. Climate is perfect for tree fruits, vegetable production. So they've been growing down there for a long time. We are just outside that, a little bit of elevation gain towards the east, and that area is known for cannabis production. There towards into the Kootenays has been producing for a long time. So Health Canada is going to release some regulations that will allow us to grow outdoors. They've already allowed it for personal production, so we will be entering into that market in a large way. Our ranch is 290 acres of the ranch is dedicated towards SpeakEasy. Perfect growing land. We have 1,000 gallons a minute well. It's been under agricultural production for probably 50, 60 years. So it's ideal conditions for growing cannabis there.
Part of your strategy is that you have a number of cultivators, sort of an incubator of sorts, producing different strains. So what are the advantages to that? And explain that strategy.
Well, we do have access to strains from all around the world, Spain, Czech Republic, and across Canada, but primarily the strains and the growers especially will be coming from BC. I've been in the industry for about 15 years and had the great opportunity to get to know a whole bunch of really, really good growers, right from Victoria all the way through the Kootenays. So we've been able to cultivate great relationships over the years, learning from each other, and we're giving them the opportunity to come into SpeakEasy. We're building them a house to their spec. They go under our SOPs and all the criteria that we're going to adhere to, and just allowing them to do their thing. So we take care of all the things that would normally take up their day. They can just focus on growing. So it's sort of a great fit. We get the benefit of their 15, 20 years of experience, and they get the benefit of just doing what they love, which is growing.
So where does SpeakEasy stand with getting a cultivation license and then eventually a sales license?
So we've got a completed facility. We've submitted our evidence package. We've had correspondence back and forth from Health Canada. They do what's called a request for clarification. So if they see something on the video or the submission package that they're not sure about, they send you a list of questions. We've responded to 2 rounds of that. From our consultant and from everybody else we've talked to, there's usually 1 or 2 rounds of questions, and then that's it. So we're at the final stage. The second round of questions were very simple ones. So we are expecting our cultivation license very soon.
Let me ask you about your father, who was very successful building up Sunripe, and I'm sure he was a mentor to you. So what kind of lessons have you learned from him that you bring to SpeakEasy?
The lessons I would take away from my father, he was and remains the hardest working person I've ever met. So trying to keep up with him right back from when I was 12, 13, starting to work in the orchards, he was just always hard to keep up to. So I've always aspired to try and be as hard a worker as he is. So
a lot of people in the cannabis sector agree that eventually, like any commodity, cannabis will be commoditized. But do you think, as a premium producer with higher margins and higher wholesale pricing, that you'll be able to maintain higher prices and higher margins?
Good question. There's a lot of companies out there. There's a lot of companies that are jumping and yelling and screaming, saying we're the biggest, we're the best. That'll never be us. We'll never say that we're going to be dominating this, that, or the other thing. That's not the philosophy that we bring to this. It's not the philosophy of our customer base, our consumers. They rail against big pharma. They rail against corporate. They rail against government. So we are the group that's been put together by a set of circumstances that has allowed these people to do what they've been doing for 20 years in the white market. So it's exciting for everyone, and we've got a very bright future ahead of us, because literally we have the best growers in BC, and BC is the best production area in the world. So we can honestly say we have the best growers in the world. So that's going to go a long way.